And all of them, contrary to that treaty, are both exporting nuclear know-how, and secondly, building a new generation of nuclear weapons at the most enormous cost. Britain is increasing defence expenditure to 2.5% of GDP, and is a lot of pressure within the government, and indeed probably even more so in the Conservative Party, to increase it to 3% of GDP, and you hear the hawkish voices coming everywhere. Now that includes nuclear. And then when there was a debate, so-called, in the Labour Party about nuclear weapons some time ago, it never happened. The Prime Minister, the now Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and the then Defence spokesperson, John Healey, now Defence Secretary, said two things. Well, one is that we are holding nuclear weapons and their presence is non-negotiable. And then secondly, there's no debate, no discussion, no change from that. This is absolutely set in stone. In other words, saying that Parliament has no say in the matter, members of the Labour Party have no say, nobody else does. And then complete silence on the question of the deployment of nuclear weapons to any bases in Britain. The suspicion is they're going to RAF Lakenheath, and we once more a deployment of nuclear weapons on British soil. We haven't been here for a very long time. Add that with the conflict in Ukraine. Now, possibly, and it is only a possibility, there's going to be some significant movement in the immediate future, which will bring about some kind of ceasefire in the conflict in Ukraine. For the sake of Russian, Ukrainian, and everybody else's lives, I obviously, like everybody in this call, hope that is the case. But this conflict has brought us perilously close to the nuclear option being considered by all parties to this conflict, and that is the danger of it. And so when Sophie said a few minutes ago that a lot of people in Britain now fear for their future and fear they may be annihilated by nuclear weapons, that is something new, because there's a whole generation grown up who kind of unaware of nuclear weapons, unaware of the significance or the power of nuclear weapons, totally unaware of the cost of them, and have been fed a steady diet of messages from the arms industry that the arms industry is the greatest force for growth in Britain, provides jobs, high wages, and good conditions. Well, the wages are high, the conditions of work are not the worst, but what are they making and what are they doing? We've been producing a book through the Peace and Justice Project called The Monstrous Anger of the Guns, which challenges the power of the arms industry, its lobbying power, its power to influence foreign policy, and the effects of its weapons in different theatres of war, from Yemen to Congo, to Sudan, to Ukraine, and of course to what is happening in Gaza and the West Bank of Palestine. And so I think what we have to do is challenge a number of things. One, the whole morality of nuclear weapons. Can there be any circumstances on the 80th anniversary of the use of weapons at Hiroshima and Nagasaki that somebody would knowingly set off a nuclear weapon, knowing it would cause the deaths of hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, ignoring the effects of nuclear testing on the Pacific, on Central Asia, on the United States, and in so many other places? Is it really an irrational human being that could do that? One would like to think not, but the very presence of nuclear weapons, the deployment of them to this country amidst all this secrecy, is incredibly dangerous, not just to us, but to everybody else who may be affected by any kind of nuclear exchange. There will never be anybody who wins a nuclear war. It's impossible. A nuclear weapon is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. You never know how many people are going to be killed as a result of it. what the effects will be on the environment that's immediately destroyed, what the effects will be on the world's climate through a nuclear winter that would follow, what the effect on the world's food supplies would be, the biodiversity, and everything else. A nuclear weapon can never be used in any kind of limited way. It is an unlimited weapon of mass destruction. That's why CND was founded in the first place. That's why CND has carried on so long. And that's why we have to demand support for the Global Ban Treaty, which the majority of the world's countries have signed up to. We have to oppose the development of a new generation of nuclear weapons, but we also have to have a comprehensive policy on preserving jobs doing something else. So we don't want people to be mass unemployment because of changes to the arms industry. We want investment in renewable energy, in renewable transport, in health and environmental causes. And all those things are quite possible. That's why at the project I'm involved with, the Project Peace and Justice, which is obviously closely aligned to CND and Stop the War and many other peace organizations, we are actively promoting that kind of debate. Some might say, well, why are you doing this at a time when there's so much danger in the world? Why are you calling for peace at a time of war? That is precisely the time to call for peace. It's precisely the time to make that voice. And so I really do hope that there is going to be a cessation of the shooting and the violence and the bombing and the killing in Ukraine. And all those hundreds of thousands of people, Ukrainians and Russians, that have lost their lives will at least be recognized as people that have died in a war, but the war was finally stopped. I wished it had never started. I wished it had been, how should I put it, better handled by the world's institutions, by the United Nations, by the European Union, and so many others. It was left to the African Union and Latin American heads of state to make initiatives. Likewise, there has to be peace, there has to be justice for the Palestinian people. It won't be achieved while they're under occupation. And the presence of nuclear weapons in the Middle East is incredibly dangerous. And so those that are supporting and calling for a new nuclear arrangement with Iran, a non-nuclear weapons basis, whatever their nuclear industry is, should be supported and applauded. So we do bring about a nuclear-free zone ultimately in the Middle East. And so our work is far from done. In many ways, our work has to be re-beginning with a new sense of energy. And I want to compliment CND on doing this, compliment those that have demonstrated at Lakenheath and other places. But let's use the NPT conference in New York as a springboard for further action. And remember, this August we'll be remembering those that died at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those weapons, abominable and appalling as they were, that fried people to death, were mere fireworks compared to the power of the current weapons, the current warheads that are available. Let's go for a nuclear-free world. Thank you.
Brilliant.